Hello everyone, it's M4J here and welcome back to the OpenTTD tutorials. Now we're back here in the new M4J network because I'm showing you this, which is a freight terminal. We're going to be building one of these today, rail freight terminal. You can add other things to it as well, like truck stops, airports if you wish, and also docks, which is what I've got over here. You can see we have lots of ships here at the moment. No trains, that's because in the new M4J network at the moment we don't have trains, but they will be coming back very, very soon. But yeah, I'm going to be showing you how to build a freight terminal like this. So let's head back over to the tutorial world and we'll get started. So here we are then, back in the tutorial world. Here's our airport that we built last time out. As promised, it's a white elephant. It'll probably never be used. Massive waste of money. But I suppose it was my money. I was going to say it's taxpayers' money, but no, it's my money that I've spent, the company money. So maybe not my best move, but what can you do? Anyway, today we are building a freight terminal, and the first bit of advice I would give when you're building your freight terminal is picking the right location. So you kind of want one that's either near a lot of raw industry or you want one that's near a lot of manufacturing industry. And by that I mean raw industry would be things like oil wells, farms, mines, which I'm not seeing any of. Nope, I don't think we have any mines in this area, but that's fine. And then manufactured are going to be things like fabrication plants or aluminium plants or timber yards, or over here sawmills, that kind of thing. This is a good spot in terms of industry. It's not the best spot in terms of topography. So we're probably not going to build one here. You kind of want one with a catchment area that will cover as much as possible. And then over here we've got, what's that, a mixed farm, paper mill, fertilizer plant, cement plant. Again, not the best. Sugar refinery. Oh, there's an iron ore mine over there, so we could potentially hook that up at some point. I think over here is going to be our best shout. It's just a case of how are we going to do it. Now there's a couple of ways that you can build your freight terminals. You can have it all condensed together. If anyone knows Guard City North Freight Terminal and the new M4J network, I'm just going to call it the M4J network because it is technically the same one. You'll know that everything there is quite condensed. It's all together in a very small space. However, Guard City South, which is where we started this video, is quite spread out and there's a lot more space. And you know, each area has its own dockyard and all kinds of things like that. So it really is up to you how you decide to build yours. I'm actually going to go for the spread out approach here, just so that we can get as many in as possible. Now annoyingly, that's not quite gone how I planned, but if I just move the land back there, we could potentially have a couple of tracks here. We could also have some, I guess, this side of the timber yard. If I just sort the land out here. Again, this isn't going to be my best work necessarily. Spoken like a true artist. This is just an idea as to what you can do with the assets available in the game, plus a little bit of imagination and things like that basically. So I think something like this would be a good way to start. We should be able to cover the farm, the timber yard and the oil well, and maybe even the fabrication plant up here as well. That looks pretty good to me. Now, in terms of what tiles to use, what station tiles to use, I like to use the ISR, which I did remember the name of and now I've completely forgotten it. But you've got some really good platform assets here. And not only have you got good platform assets, they are also animated. So you'll see here that like the fruit, I don't know why fruit's in here, because the type of the version of furs I'm using doesn't have fruit, so I don't know why that's. I guess there are other types that will include it, but for example, you've got oil. That's what I was looking for. Or it's farm facilities, but you can use it for oil, and you've got these tankers. So if I was to select this, and if we did 2 platforms, 2 tracks wide and 8 or 6. Wow, I'm completely all over the place at the moment. 2 tracks wide, 6 platform length, and then we were to build it here, like so. If we were to then grab these tanks and we were to like squeeze them in between, yeah, that's not going to work. Squeeze them in here between, you will see, to start with, they are empty. You can see down inside them. But as they fill up with oil, these tanks will animate, and you'll see that, you know, the old gas storage tanks that they used to have near industrial estates here in the UK, where the lid would actually go up or down depending on how full the tank is. That's basically what these are. So you'll see that the lid will slowly raise up and eventually it will reach the top, which is really, really cool. I'm a big fan of that. Now what this means is you can sort of prioritize your platforms depending on the cargo carried. So obviously these ones here are going to be oil. Although saying that, I just want to do a bit more like that. You could change it. The other way you could do it, of course, is having just barrels. And that's one way of doing it too. And to be honest, that's probably what I am going to do here. And again, the platforms are empty at the moment, but you can see how they fill up as items appear. So I think platform length of 8 is what I tend to go with on the M4J network. So I'm going to do something a little similar to that. I also think that this might have to move over slightly, purely because I'm going to put some more platforms on this side here. We could stagger them, of course, and that might be what I end up doing. But you've got general cargo here, and you've also got timber. Now I believe this accepts timber and chemicals and turns it into engineering and building supplies. So you kind of want a platform for drop off and a platform for pickup. Did not mean to click there. Thank you, Shift. So I think we've got enough space here for 4 platforms. So we're going to use 4 platforms. So first and foremost, shift it over 1. And we're going to go for 2 here, and we're going to go 8 long. We're going to connect it using control to the existing station that we already have here. These are going to be our, technically our drop-off platforms, but they could also work for pickup as well. And then add to that station like so. Now here we should be able to join these up like this. There we are. And then on this side it's just a simple case of doing that. And then coming in with the landscape tool and just making it look a little neater, which is something I can do over here as well. Why not? Now the signaling, if you were watching the signaling tutorial from a few weeks ago now, that all becomes very, very important later on in this video. So if you haven't checked out the signaling tutorial yet, I strongly suggest you do so, purely because I will be using a lot of what I talked about in that video here, because we are dedicating platforms according to cargo carried, and therefore you want to make sure that the right trains are able to access the right platforms. Now, as well as having the drop-off and the pickup here for the timber plant, timber yard, I don't know where I got plant from, we do also have a farm here as well, where we could pick up some farm stuff. So we've got grain and sugar beet. So that's actually perfect for, go back to raw materials, this, farm facilities. Now we could use, not milk, I suppose we could just use the grain tanks. That'll work, and you can do 2x4. Problem with that, it does change it a little bit. You don't want to mask your trains too much if you can help it, because it does look a little weird. So I suppose what you could do is one there like that, one there like that, and then come through with a different type for the intermediates. And yeah, it looks a little bit nicer, I suppose. And then again, we can connect these up a bit like so. This side, I think we're going to make it go the other way, and it could potentially go round the actually, yeah, I like that idea for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think it'll just look cool. And second of all, I do actually need a loop here for trains to turn, which again, I'll come back to in a second. Let's just redo this and make it look a little bit nicer and a little bit neater. There we go. Alrighty. So these are our 3 sets of platforms. I'm pretty happy with this. I think it'll work quite well, but we'll see how it all goes once we connect it all up and get it running. Now the next thing is we need to start actually connecting these tracks. So first of all, this needs to come out from a tunnel, which we're going to do here. Gives ourselves a little bit of space here if we do decide to build any truck stops or anything like that that also hook up. The other thing you can do, some people call this cheating, I think it's okay myself, is you can use truck stops and bus stops and things like that to increase the size of your catchment area. So if we weren't covering this for whatever reason, which are we? I think we are, because metal is accepted here and chemicals and things like that. You can also see we've got a rich variety of things here. Chemicals, engineering supplies, farm supplies, metal, timber. So there's a lot of stuff here. Plus we're also picking up grain and sugar beet, and we're also picking up oil. So there's a few things that are being produced here, either as raw products or as manufactured products. And that's exactly what we want to see. So again, I'm pretty happy with the style of station that we've got here. I'm just going to carve out the land here a little bit so that we've got some room to work with. And I think if I build this and then this and so, and then come down and just tidy this up a little bit more. Again, it's not really necessary, but I like to do it. I like to keep things nice and tidy when I'm doing my building, believe it or not. And that's coming from someone who is notorious for carving out the landscape when they're doing big builds. But believe it or not, I do actually like keeping things relatively neat and tidy. Or at least, like, if I've got a small cutting like this, I like to have it operate as an actual cutting rather than... Oh, that's my watch buzzing on my desk. And there we go. So now you can see all three lines here are connected up. Now we could go one step further and actually build a triangular junction over here, which is something I am going to do because I would like to get some freight trains operating on this section of track here as well. It's not a priority right now though, so I'm just looking to see actually if there's any industries down here worth connecting up. You've got this, which is what exactly? Biorefinery, takes grain and sugar beet. Well, actually that's very useful because we've got grain and sugar beet coming from the farm, and it produces chemicals and petrol, which is also very useful because we've got a plant up there that accepts chemicals. Likewise down here, manufacturing supplies and milk. That one we can't do. That's a shame. We have got a hotel here though, which is way outside the town. I don't think I've seen that before. Any other industries? There's a couple down here. It's a dredging site, but again, sand and stone, and we're not really working with those. I can't see anything. There's oil here, but we've already got oil. There's another farm there. So I like the idea of connecting this one up. And I might show you how to do that in a second as well, because that gets a nice little production chain going. But for now, let's stick with what we've got here. So now we're going to connect the tracks up on the other side of the site, and we're going to build another loop. And again, that will become important soon. This one's going to be a bit trickier though, because we're operating on a mixed elevation site. But I reckon if we did something a little like this, and then curved it round, try and keep things flat where you can. Bear in mind these are going to be heavy freight trains, and they're going to move very, very slowly for the most part. So you do want to try and keep the elevation changes minimal. And you also try and, again, it sounds weird considering how I've built this, but you want to try and keep your tracks as straight as possible as well, because depending on what type of setup you've got in your game, what settings you're using, trains do actually slow down as they go around corners. So you don't necessarily want them to constantly be slowing down, because that can be a bit of a pain. Right, one last thing I need to do on this side of the site is build a second passing loop that bypasses the oil. And there we go. So for signaling, what you want is two-way path signals. These ones here. Now, the reason you want two-way path signals is because you're going to be encouraging your trains whoops, to enter from the back here and then leave in the same direction they came from. Now you might be thinking, if your industry is, let's say, this direction here to the west, how do you get your train to enter from the west and leave to the east when the shortest distance is to the west again? And that's a very good question, and hopefully I'm about to answer that question for you. It's to do with signaling. It is all to do with signaling and how you set up your signals. And this is why it's important to go back and watch the signaling tutorial if you haven't already. And I know it sounds like self-promotion and a bit of self-gratification and things like that, but it is actually very, very important. The reason being is as follows. We're going to select this signal here and this signal here, and we're going to share them. So one shares with the other. We're then going to go deny. We're then going to say if, whoops, that's on the wrong level. There we go. If entry direction is from the back, then if cargo can carry oil, then allow. And that means all trains that carry oil will be allowed through here. Now, hopefully that means the only trains carrying oil will be allowed through here. There are sometimes cases where your train might carry oil and petrol, say, and you don't necessarily want to let them through. So there are ways around that. I'm not going to show you here because this isn't a signaling tutorial. Next up, if entry direction is from the front of the signal, then if PBS entry signal is, and you select this one here, and then you go here and you say, or if PBS entry signal is this one here, then allow. And what this means is if your train is trying to leave from the front of the signal, so if it pulls in from the east, stops, loads up, and then tries to leave again in this direction, it can only do so if it entered this block via one of these two signals. And that's how you force your train to carry on straight. There might be better ways of doing it. This is the way I found it very, very useful. Now, the really cool thing about this is it's modular. We can now copy it. So if we was to select the first signal here and hit copy, not share, hit share on the second one and copy it over like that. Now we've got two signals here that share the same orders, and all you've got to do is click on this thing here and select signal and change them to the other two. And now we have a system whereby trains can only leave in the same direction they entered, and that counts for both directions, which I think is really, really cool. Now we're going to do something similar for these two. So first of all, we're going to copy like so and then share. We're going to change oil here to timber because that's what these platforms are dedicated to. And then when it comes to the signals, we're going to select this one here and this one here. And then we'll do the same thing in the other direction. So select these two, you copy from there, you share with that one. Now timber is already selected, which is great. So all we have to do now is select these two signals here and here. And again, those platforms are now set up and ready to go. There are other ways to do this as well. I'm going to show you an example in a second. But basically, if you have coal or iron ore or scrap metal or any kind of something that's been dug out of the ground, basically, there's a really cool feature in the game, which I can't really show you right now because I don't have any freight trains selected, but you can have a two tile long platform, and an 8 tile long train can still use it because there's something called what is it called? 1 second, everybody. Let me actually get let's just buy a cheapish train, and there we go. And then if I go like this, and here you can do this through load. There it is. So what that means is the train will continuously move, but every time empty wagons enter the platforms and fill the platforms, the train will stop quickly, load up those wagons, and then it will continue moving again. It's a really, really cool feature. I don't think it's particularly new. I think it's been around for a while, but I only really started using it in recent times on the M4J network, and it's a really, really, really good feature to have for me personally. I just think it's awesome. Little details like that. Because there's something we have here in the UK called a merry-go-round system, which sounds a bit dumb, but basically, sorry, just 1 second, I've got to make sure, yeah. So here as well, you go if can carry or if cargo can carry farm supplies. And now again, if it carries either of those two things, it will stop at these sets of platforms here. So yeah, here in the UK, we have something called a merry-go-round train, which is basically what I've set up here, where the train continuously moves. It never really stops moving unless it comes to a red signal. So you will have a coal train, or we use something called biomass now in most of our power stations. Sadly, not all of them, but they will go to the train will go to the loading area, and it's one of those chutes that loads up the wagon, and it will just continuously move whilst it's loading up. And then once it's full, it will go to its destination, and there'll be like a almost like an inspection pit kind of thing under the track, and the train will drive over it slowly, and there'll be a catch release on the side of the train, and it'll activate the bottom of the wagon. The wagon will swing open, and the biomass or coal or whatever it is will empty, and the train never stops. And it's a really, really cool system. That's where through load comes in handy, because it allows you to recreate things like that. It's just realism turned up to the max, which I'm a massive, massive fan of. Right, last two here, or the last four, I should say. But this is kind of what we're working with here. It's called RoRo in OpenTTD, and it basically means roll on, roll off, is what RoRo stands for. And it just, the train exits in the same direction it enters, and it's meant to be a time-saving thing. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it can be a problem more than a solution. But when it works, and it works well, then, you know, it works really well. There's no other way of saying it, really. And then finally, these two. I'm doing this thing again. I did it last episode too, where I'm just waffling whilst I'm doing stuff. But I promise I know what I'm talking about. It's one of these things where I've put myself on the spot. If I was doing this in a normal episode, I'd probably be fine and I'd explain what I'm doing and things like that. But because I'm now doing it in a tutorial form, for some reason I just forget how to speak. Okay. So we're now ready to hook this up to the main line. I think I'm going to do it over here, purely because I think we've got more space to work with, and the junction would just look nicer. So I'm just going to flatten this land a little bit. There we go. It looks a bit stupid having this little peninsula here sticking out, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And then we'll go along this way like so. Somewhere around here, we are going to need a passing loop of sorts. We'll come to that in a second. Let's go with just a boring viaduct. Why not? Concrete can be our friend sometimes. If we climb back up the slope here, we'll come around here. And I think this will be a good spot for a passing loop, because it's relatively close to where we're going. And it can also act as an entry signal to the actual site. So if we do 8 and then 9, like that, and then here we'll turn this way, and then we'll connect you up like so. There we go. We'll use one-way path signals like that. I will have one here as well, just for a speed release. And I think that'll do. Now the speed limit on the main line here is what, 30 miles an hour for, oh, it's 60. Okay. In that case, I will have a, I'm gonna have to unshare this one. So if current order is CAD-Town TMD, then restrict train speed to 15. Now normally I would do if cargo can't carry passenger or mail, but for this, no passenger train is ever going to be coming down here. So I'm just going to say if the current order is that, then speed restriction is going to be 30. Over here, your speed restriction is going to drop down to probably 15, but it feels slow, but I promise you, in terms of realism, that's the kind of thing we're looking for. And then over here, if entry direction is from the back, then set speed restriction to 30. There we go. So in theory, this is all now set up and ready to start running trains. I do need to quickly build a station down here. Now, I could do a Ro-Ro. I'm not going to. I'm just going to build something simple here, which is going to be... So what have we got here? We've got grain and sugar beet being dropped off, and chemicals and potentially petrol being picked up. So if I go for farm facilities... Sure. This would be a good one, actually, to show off how the through load would work. So maybe I will build a loop. The more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, I'm going to build a loop. So let's use this set of platforms here then for the chemicals. So if we go for processed products, barrels, and we want 2 by 4, and we're going to build that twice. So one there like that, one there like that. And that is an 8 tile long. Perfect, which is exactly what I use on the M4J network. Some people might not want to use that. That's absolutely fine. So number of tracks here. We're going to go with 1. I don't know how that ended up happening, but it's a bit of a fluke that just happens to be right. And we're going to do this. Thing is, we are still going to treat this like a normal platform. So we're going to have signals at the ends and things like that. The problem with signals at the ends, though, is once the train goes through it, it reserves the whole block, which does stop other trains from being able to leave, which can be a bit of a pain. But if you plan ahead and you know, recognize that that's a thing, you should be fine. I've got to remember here as well that this company isn't made of money like the M4J network is. So there's a very good chance that we might bankrupt ourselves accidentally whilst doing this. But, you know, it's all fun and games at the end of the day, isn't it? So here we go then. Build this, build this, build this. Now I could have made this a dead end for chemicals and petrol. Probably would have been fine and just kept the loop for this. But I'm gonna do this properly. Why not? As for how to join back up to the main line, I think I'm gonna tunnel underneath the main line here. So let's do that. Build it underneath like so. And then you're going to come up like this. You're going to come across, whoops, like so. Here we are. And then we'll probably just connect up at this signal over here because it's far enough away that it should be not an issue at all. There we are. As for this one, I guess we'll just continue following the railway in this direction, and then there's a signal there that we could connect up to nicely. So if we come along like this, up the slope, and then yeah, we'll come in like that. And obviously you're now going to be, whoops, you're going to be a path signal, you're going to be a path signal, which might affect some of the multi-aspecting elsewhere, but again, right now, not really fussed. I would love to use shunt signals here. I don't know how well this will work, but I want to give it a bash. Or there's shunt on the opposite side, or there's combined, which I would actually like to use here. Which again I think would be cool. Could probably use it here as well, but I think that actually could just be a normal shunt. There we go. We've got trains going here, there and everywhere right now as well. It's awesome. Right, turn that off. So we want shunt signals on all of these and all of these. And then we also want shunt signals here. Now, the problem I've made for myself here is there's a very good chance. Is there a signal here that I'm just not seeing? There's a very good chance that trains will try and leave in reverse again. So again, that's why we're going to use our if trains approaching from front methodology. Also default, and we need to place one of you here, and we're just going to copy, we're not going to share with that one over there because that'll get trains back up to line speed. If we select this signal here, there we go, and again if current order is, I'm just going to say this, Brentwood Portland, that's a nice name. Then speed restriction is going to be 30. Down here, it's going to be 15. There we go. This one, I could use a reverse one here, but I'm just going to use the first one out. Speed restriction there is going to go back up to 30. And then, of course, when it joins the main line up here, it already accelerates back to line speed. Right, let's do these. So we're going to share with that one. Deny. Actually, reset that a second. You are going to copy from this one. There we go. And you're going to share with that one. Now, something we can do here is remove that. We're only letting trains in from the back here because it's a one-directional loop. The only reason I've set it up this way here is so that trains can take either side of the loop, which they might end up having to do depending on how this is. If we were to remove this loop here, this passing loop, then trains would basically end up going around this in just one direction. Or if they came in from this side, then they would use the passing loop here to get out. But otherwise, it would be a mostly unidirectional thing. Now, up this end, you can just share like so and deny. If entry direction is from the front, then allow. And to be fair, this one here could also in fact do the same. And there we go. Right, this one I'm going to copy from you. And actually I've already realized something that's wrong. This is correct for this track here. This one here, it needs to be chemicals or petrol. But everything else is fine. There we go. And then this one here is grain or sugar beet. So if I come out of transparency, this is what it looks like. I think it looks pretty cool. This station is full. That's not good. There's going to be a train running late now. Somewhere. I don't know where. The departure thing here is a bit messed up still. Someone actually left a comment on the scheduled dispatch video, which has just gone out when I'm recording this, saying something to do with it's not quite work. As you can see here, it's arriving at 4:04 and it's leaving at 7:21 on its schedule. So I don't know. Something's gone wrong here. Maybe don't use your stations for scheduled dispatch. And actually keep it with a depot. So yeah, this one's leaving at 5:21, which is over an hour from now. This one is leaving at 6:21. So this train's going to be sitting here for over an hour. So something's gone wrong. Let's just temporarily fix that. It's 75 minutes early. Let's just reset that as well, shall we? There we go. So now it knows that it's running on time. Cool. Yeah, I want to get a freight train running. I suppose the last thing to do over here is to build a little marshalling yard for train storage. So again, one other thing that I've forgotten to mention is eye candy. So again, the oil tankers here are a good way of doing that. And to be honest, we could go back down here and add some tankers over here. And again, these will fill up. You've also got your random tiles here that can fill up like so. They'll fill up with barrels. You've got other stuff. So the container ones, they're really, really good. And in fact, somewhere, doesn't appear to be here, but there it is, cars. So I think this is for manufactured goods, like literally just goods. And they can be represented by cars, which is really cool. You've also got things like paper, timber, the barrels, copper and steel, which can both represent metal. And then these containers here, and also these boxes up here, goods, food, engineering supplies, farm supplies, manufacturing supplies, any of those can all be represented here. And in terms of raw materials, you've got piles of coal, You've got piles of timber. You've got the ones with the forklifts and the pickers as well. Livestock, you've got cattle there. You've got pigs there. You've also got your fruit, which again I still don't quite understand, but there we are. Cattle sheds. Under facilities, I think some of these are animated. So this one here, as the train approaches, the door will actually open for it, which I think is pretty cool. Most of these I tend to use for just manufactured goods because there's not really much else you can use them for. The cranes here also move. You put them down in two tile segments and they move backwards and forwards. You've got your crane here as well. I don't think the level crossings act as level. I don't think there's any warning beacons or anything like that. But what I'm going to be building now over here is just a small marshalling yard for the purposes of storing trains. So let's go like this. I think a 3-tracker will be absolutely fine. So I need this to be 9 tiles long. There we go. Like so. And then we'll go 1, 2, and 3. Now hopefully I can do this correctly because there are times where I get it wrong. Basically, you want something like this. So you can see now there's an extra track. If I move the catchment area away, there's an extra track between the two main ones. If we then did something similar on this side, there you go, there's another extra track. And it's just a really cool way of storing your trains. So they will obviously use the actual tracks, these ones here, but it will look like, if I place that one there and this one here, it will look like they're able to use all the tracks, which I think is just pretty neat. If we were to build a shelter like so, I believe that's functional, and we could put another one there. That's fine. And then a drag and drop just there, and then we'll put some buffers along the back. There we go. Now for this, we could actually put a depot on the back, but I think I'm actually going to put a reversible depot, which is going to be, so from here it'll be like this. We'll connect these up as well. We could probably do something similar here actually, like so, and then it'll climb up the hill, and then there'll be a depot at the top here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've run out of room. 5, 6, 7, 8. There we are. Now we can get 2 services running from this. The first one, again, this is kind of a recap of everything that we've done in this series so far. What have we got that's a good freight hauling loco? There's a question. I still feel like I'm quite limited here in terms of haulage. I feel like there's stuff missing. I'm pretty sure BR set has more than this. Let's put it that way. Now your speed is only 20 miles an hour. So this one here, it's quite a good little shunter. There's an 08 as well. And there's a couple of other little ones that you can use. They're really good for operating within industrial areas. So you might have, I mean, an example I can use is at Morningpool Falls on the M4J network, but you might not know what that is. But effectively, I've got a main terminal, and then I've also got a couple of little satellite terminals, and I have little shunters that haul trains to and from those, which are pretty cool. I'm not going to use that. I would love to be able to use a nice diesel loco, but I don't seem to. I mean, you can go 63 miles an hour, so we could, and you're good for heavy freight. So I guess we'll just use that. Imagine, if you will, that this is actually a British loco. I think it's because I installed BR set late in the day. Also, what year are we in? No, 2009. So I should have what I'm looking for. So I don't know where that's gone. How weird. And then for wagons, I want something that can carry grain and sugar beet. So you can carry grain and sugar beet. Can you auto refit though? That's the other question. Because I would like one that can. I don't think any of these can. The British Rail one might be able to. I know I set it up in my version to be able to. We could just try this then. What's happened to the livery there? Oh, something's gone wrong with my BR set. I think that's what's happened here. Ha! In that case, we won't use that. We'll use this one. And we'll make it the full length. I appear to have a train limit as well. Let's just change that. Maximum length of trains, 8 tiles, please and thank you. And then we'll just control click those up. There we are. Now I'm hoping, if I minimize this for a second, and then come over here, and then down to here. I'm hoping I can do an auto refit, but it's not looking promising. No, it's not. Okay. Bear with. There will be a way of doing it. One of these will allow me to do it. So you are from DAC. Now these might work. It says self-discharging as well, which is good. Not looking promising. There are some where you can auto refit at stations. I don't seem to have any enabled at the moment, but just imagine. Oh, there you go. Let's get a train length of 8. So yeah, here you can go refit at station to available cargo. Now this is something, again, not many people were aware of, is the fact that you can have your train auto refit. What I'm going to do up here, service at the depot, and then here, whilst you're stopped, first of all I'm going to make sure no unloading, no loading. Now that's the problem, because when you select no loading, you can't then refit. Now I'm annoyed that you can't refit at the depot, actually. That's a bit weird. So I could say refit to fixed cargo, and you can select 1, so it'll be refit to grain. But I do kind of want it to refit to whatever's available here, but only grain and sugar beet. Now there is a way of doing that, and I've completely forgotten what it is, which isn't very good, but thankfully this isn't a tutorial for that. There is a way though where you can say only carry these things. We'll come back to that. Anyway, Brentwood, Portland, you are going to unload all, and you're going to be a through load, and then over here again you are a no loading and no unloading. Actually, I think, is it here? Load by cargo. There we go. I knew I'd find it. Set all to no loading, and then grain, load if available, and then sugar beet, load if available. And that means that it won't accidentally fill up with oil or anything like that by mistake, even though it can't actually carry oil. It's best to play it safe. As for the timetable then, so here the maximum speed of this train is going to be 60 miles an hour, so we're going to set it to 60 miles an hour. So control click here and do 60. The only exceptions, of course, are to and from the depot, where the top speed will be 10. Like that. As for the waiting times, we can set these manually, basically. Actually, we can set them all at the same time. We just do 60. It's a long time to wait, for sure, but I like it to be an hour. Keeps things clock face. It's very nice, very cool. Turn off auto separation. We're going to put the lock time on there, and we're going to hit autofill. Now, I'm not going to do scheduled dispatch yet. I'm going to wait for this to actually fill its orders, because I think that is something that someone recommended, which is useful, to put it that way. There's other things that people said were useful as well, actually. If I hold control, something changes somewhere, they said. I'm not seeing it unless it's down here. Nope. Something does change when you hit control on it and allows you to... Oh, it might be under here. There we go. Manage lists. You can reverse the order list, or you can append the reversed order list, which I think is really cool, because that is something that I've struggled with in the past. Also, you're in group 0 now, because I think I've accidentally added you to a group. Yes, I have. Go back to ungrouped, please, and we'll remove this group. Cool. So this train, in theory, is now ready to go. I am going to clone it, this train here, but I'm going to clone it in a specific way, because, first of all, I don't want you carrying grain. I want you carrying chemicals. So we're going to get something, I guess, like this. You are train number 10. So we're going to remove those. I like the random livery as well. That's really cool. And the tanker wagons here will also be really cool if I could get them to carry, auto refit. That's what I meant to say. So we have a container carrier, which are quite cool as well. Do you know what? Yeah, let's go for these. And I don't need as many as that, so we're going to remove a couple. In fact, that'll do. Move those up. Grab this. Now we're going to do something similar here, but different, which is something that sounds weird when you say it out loud. But effectively, here, we're going to do this. And here we're going to do, to be honest, these I could probably do as middle as well. But yeah, we're essentially going to swap these around like so. And there we go. So Rentwood, Portland, you are going to refit to what's available, but we're going to make sure that you are only loading chemicals, which are up here. Load if available. And we're not going to load petrol, actually, because petrol isn't accepted here. So we're just going to say chemicals. Then you're going to come up here and you're going to unload and leave empty. And then you're going to run back to your depot. And there we go. That's basically it. That's everything done. Now the speed limits here should be the same. They should be constant. Everything here should be good. We're going to autofill this. And we should now be able to get both of these trains running. Right, so you are going to be renamed here to Woofingwell City Freight Terminal. And then this one, which I've got somewhere, there it is, you're going to be Freight Depot. Now the only other change I could potentially make, oh, there is one other change actually I need to make. Someone might have already spotted it. When we're unloading here, that time can be 1 minute, not 60, because that will be incredibly dumb to make it go through like that and then have it wait for an hour still. That's not good. Right here, if entry direction is from the back, whoops, wrong one, is from the back, then limit speed to, I think it's 5 that we've been using here. If entry direction is from the front, then 15. And these might drop down to 10 at some point, again just for realism, but right now 15's fine. Trains are slow. Trains are very slow. Right, so this is now filling up. You'll see that the first order there is complete. Eventually, we'll have a full set of schedules here. There's another graphics glitch here, which annoys me. There we go. We'll end up with a full amount here of of cargo moving backwards and forwards. I might at some point see if there's a way that I could hook up some wood as well. I don't actually know if we have. Literally can't see the wood from the trees right now. Is that a forest? Yeah, there's a forest. So we can have wood from the forest there, brought down to the sawmill, then to the timber yard, and then onwards. But again, that's something we'll worry about next time. So next time is actually looking at shipping. It's about setting up docks. It's about adding buoys, not buoys or whatever you North Americans say, buoys, as in buoyancy. And then also pathfinding, because that is something that was requested from me. People struggle sometimes with their pathfinding when it comes to shipping, and that is something that I would like to think that I can help out with. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you found this tutorial useful. Even if you didn't, you can hit the like button as well if you just happen to enjoy the video. Feel free to drop some comments down below. Ideas for future tutorials will always be useful and appreciated. anything like that that you think might be useful, or just leave some thoughts of your own down below. And of course, if I've missed anything out in this video, why not let me know down below as well. Otherwise, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Plenty more tutorials like this coming up in the not too distant future. That is service, isn't it? Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of that bit. That's whatever. If you have already subscribed to the channel, just interrupted my outro there to talk about something that doesn't matter. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and until next time, I will see you soon.